Kamen Rider Wiki.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here. Welcome to my review for Kamen Rider Saber Episode 5. Before we get started, just real quick, at the very end of the video, there's going to be a small update about the schedule for these reviews. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. But let's talk about this episode on a double post Saber Day. This was another busy episode. We got the official debut of another new rider. I mean, we debuted like his character an episode or two ago, but we have like the actual transformation form this week. And we find out that he is the son of Caliber, which is kind of a huge plot twist. A little bit of a generic one, but you know, setting the stones, or setting the table for the stepping stones for all of the villains to become best friends with Saber and everybody by the end of the series. But we set that up so they have that dynamic there, and he and Saber, it's really funny because like the beginning of the episode, first of all, or near the beginning of the episode, you have Saber is kind of cataloging all the knowledge he's found so far, sort of like writing names down so he can remember names. I'm like, dude, just give him a nickname and then call him that the whole time and never learn their real name. That's what I do. And then there's a little bit of a flashback of them all talking at the base about stuff, and I had to endure, even though it was a flashback, I had to endure looking at that trash hat for another week. Oh, and before I forget, I'm inserting this here. They finally officially debuted that tech guy. Like, after he showed up 2-3 episodes ago, like he's always been there and then has just been there without a formal intro, they finally not only introduced him, but they were like, who are you? Which I thought was pretty funny, so at least that's out of the way. It's funny because they're basically like, look, can you handle being out in the field because your dad's Caliber? He's like, oh yeah, it's gonna be fine. And then as soon as I see him in the field, he's like, why did you betray us? And like Saber fights him too, and there's like a weird connection between their belts, and he uses the triple form again. So that's kind of the main part of what happens at the beginning of the episode, outside of the monster of the week running around. And then you have a couple different scenes back to back of Buster talking to him on the roof, and there's kind of just like a funny moment between them, and they talk about his dad, and kind of talking about like, you know, I wish that you and your dad, or not you and your dad, me and your dad could have talked like you and are right now, because, you know, he turned evil and I wish he could have voiced whatever he was going through to me like you are now. And he's kind of grateful that they're talking about, you know, their feelings on this matter. And they talk a little bit about Toma's memories, and he's like, I don't want to take this away from him, and like basically, you know, jar him with this information. And then right after that, Toma shows up and they talk. And it's kind of implied that, you know, Toma knows that there's something wrong with his memories. I mean, obviously, but I mean, that he knows there's something related to all this, and that he knows about it. But, I don't know, it's weird, because it's like, he doesn't want to tell Toma and, you know, shock him right now because he's not ready. And I guess Toma's not ready too, but he knows that he has the information about his memories. And it's funny because, like, I'm complaining about how Saber's going too fast. But with this, I'm kind of like, you know what, let's just get it out there. I'm kind of sick of the way it's being played. It's like, oh, I don't want to shock him. I'm like, well, maybe if you shock him with this information, he'll stop wearing stupid, unnecessary hats. We figure out the monster of the week. We debut another new form with the Eagle book or whatever that was set up last week. And then we also had Blades and the annoying girl running around during this episode, and then at the end they encounter that villain dude from last week, and then this other villain guy. I'm still learning everyone's names, so it's really ironic because, you know, he was making that chart to learn everyone's name, and I'm just like, yeah, that guy. And then the other dude, and then the dude with the hair. But the other guy, the villain, shows up and he debuts his monster form, and it kind of ends on a cliffhanger there. And like, this felt just like kind of a weird, busy episode, because you're like, Monster of the Week, form debuts, you got the rider debuts, we got the information about how Caliber ties back into it, a couple different discussions with that, because like literally back to back there's a discussion about Buster's like, oh, you know, I used to be friends with your dad, and, you know, and he was a good friend, and I'm the best pilot in the galaxy. And there's that scene, and then there's immediately a scene about the dynamic of Toma without his memories, and then there's the stuff with Blades and the annoying girl when they run into those two villains, and it's just so jam-packed full of stuff. And like, my general thoughts on this episode are kind of the same as the last few weeks. It's decently fine, like I don't think it's awful, but oh, except for that one scene at the beginning when they were bonding and they're talking about the stories they used to read, and they did like a little play reenactment. I hate it. That was the only thing I didn't like. But it's just, I don't hate it, but I don't like it. It just feels so jam-packed, and but yet hollow in terms of like the content, if that makes any sense. And it kind of reminds me, and some people might disagree, of two different things. One of them is Dino Force Brave, which is kind of a weird example, but that was a weird series because it was like a little mini series that almost felt like a Toku web series, where when you're watching it, they're like running a checklist of like Toku tropes, like here's the intro for this, here's the plot twist about someone being someone's relative, and it's like this checklist of plot and melodrama, but you don't really feel invested in it because it's all happening so fast. And that's kind of the way I feel about this right now, is I feel there's a lot being thrown at me, a lot I like on paper. I mean, I'm a sucker for a good storyline about these family members on opposite sides, and there's lots of interesting dynamics and relationships and mysteries on paper, but I'm not all that overly invested in them. And it also reminds me of, the other example is the early episodes of Ryusoulger, when you set up, oh, Tonkajo killed our masters and we have to get revenge, and then we got revenge, and then I'm like, or justice for, you know, because they're heroes, but it was revenge. And I wasn't invested, and there was supposed to be all this investment, but I didn't have any time to get invested in that. And I know we're only 5 episodes in, which is very early on, but there's just so much being thrown that I wish we were letting this breathe a little bit, because there's a lot of content in this 5 episodes that could have been like in 10 episodes and like breathed a little bit, and I would feel a lot more invested. So I don't know, like I think it's okay, but it feels a little bit hollow, and I'm kind of looking forward to when they run out of stuff to debut, because, you know, most cases, an early rider, you have that big chunk where they're pushing out all these toys, and then you hit like a little bit of a dead zone before like the super form shows up. And I'm looking forward to that, just because maybe things will slow down a little bit. Who knows? But overall, you know, this episode was okay. But the little update about the schedule is I'm going to take a little bit of a break from reviewing Saber, because I feel like a lot of my thoughts are the same. I'm not really enjoying it all that much. I'm still going to watch it every week, because I can't imagine having to watch more than 1 episode in a row. I might die, probably. I'm going to like restructure the way I do these reviews, and I'm going to do them by a little bit by arc. So I'm going to keep watching it, and then when it hits kind of the end of an arc, I'm going to do check-ins all throughout the series and just review it by arc. I think that'll be a little bit easier and make reviewing it a little bit more enjoyable for me. But what do you guys think? Did you like this episode? Did you like our new writer's full debut? Also, are you liking the series so far? I want to know in the comments as always. But until next time, like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell because just for my videos. Dawson Rider, signing out.